Hi, I'm Amanda from Life Unraveled, and we're here to unravel life's little mysteries. In this unit, we're looking at starting school. What's involved with starting school? Who should we talk to? What do we need to know before they start school? And how to prepare them ready for that school experience. What sort of equipment do we need to be able to provide them so that they can do their best at school? Well, you'll be given a book list, and you can some schools you can pay an amount, and then all the books and the texters and everything arrives at school ready for the child. And some schools ask you to name it, other schools don't. Other schools combine it all together and everyone just shares. And that way there's no issues in the classroom as far as that's mine, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. Everyone just shares together, and that builds a great community in the classroom. It builds a family, and that family are people who they're going to be with all the time. They need to learn to socialise with those people. They need to learn to share, work cooperatively, and be part of a group. So the other thing that you need is a school uniform. Now there's very, very few schools nowadays that don't require a school uniform. Mostly it's to make it really easy for kids. It also means that there's not as much peer pressure for what they're wearing and latest brands. So school uniforms are important. They do cost a little bit, and anywhere from $200 up to $2,000 depending on what school you go to. Some schools have a summer uniform and a winter uniform. All schools must have hats, but sometimes they have a formal hat and other times they just have a play hat. Now hats are so important because every school has no hat, no play. So your child will not be able to go out onto the oval if they don't have a hat. Now make sure that you label everything that goes to school with their uniform. If it ends up in the lost property and it's labelled, it will come back to your child. If you've got big labels on the inside, if someone accidentally takes it and puts it in their bag, then what you can do, the other parents will see that really big label, and whenever it comes back to school, what you'll do is you'll see that, this is Lily's hat, so let's give it to Lily. And it doesn't matter who's got it, if you've got that name on there, then it will come back to your child. Jumpers. Now so many children wear jumpers, they take them off during the day, they get hot and they run around at lunchtime and they're hot, and so they just drop it. Some of them just drop it anywhere. Now teachers really try hard to keep everything together and to have these routines so that things aren't left, but invariably things will be left, and it is such a frustration for parents and teachers alike. So it's really important that those labels are big and that they can't come off easily, and that it's on the inside but where it's easily seen. What can you do for your lunchbox? Well, lunchboxes are really, really, really tricky. You need to make it easy for the kids to eat. You need to make it fun and yummy. By the same token, you need to keep it safe. So in Australia and New Zealand, we have really hot summers and cold winters. Now the cold winters aren't so bad unless the school bags are kept in a room that is being heated, and in which case the food is going to be heated up to a temperature where bacteria can grow. So even in winter, it's important that we have a enclosed lunchbox and that you have some sort of a cold pack or something in there with the food. Those cold packs can be got from anywhere, from the supermarket, from Kmart, Big W, any of those types of places. And it's important that we do have one in their lunchbox at all times. What I used to do is use a popper, just a little juice box. And I used to freeze that juice box and put that in the lunchbox, and that way I knew that it was cold. And at first break, when the kids would have something to eat, then they could mush it up and drink. It was like an icy, so it was great for them. They really loved it. And in winter I used to take a little thermos and I had dumplings or soup or noodles or something like that in there, or pasta, which they ate, and it made them feel warm, and it keep those thermoses keep them warm for a long period of time nowadays. So that's just some ideas for lunch boxes. We do have another section that goes in a lot more detail with lunch boxes, talking about healthy lunches and what to have and what not to have. So I'll let you watch that course as it comes through. Now, a backpack must be easy for them. I have seen little ones that are coming to prep and reception for the first time, and they walk in and their backpacks are heavier than them, and they go, "Whoa!" and they fall over, and it's just awful. There are some things that you need to consider for backpacks. Number one is what you need to put in it. They must have their lunch in there. So whatever size their lunchbox is, it needs to easily fit into their bag. They need to be able to put their jumper and their hat in there. They need to be able to put like maybe an A4 book or something like that, so that they can bring things home, their homework book home. They can bring little bits and pieces home, pieces of paper that they've done, craft that they've done. So it needs to be big enough to fit those things in it. Now, some schools have their own backpacks, and they're quite big because they're not really designed for those little ones. They will have smaller ones, but I've seen them on wheels where they have their own little wheels attached and the kids can wheel them along like a little trolley. Now that's fantastic, and if they don't have them, you can buy little trolleys just from the cheap shops, and you can just strap that bag in and they can go with their bag. And when they're that little, you'll be walking them into school and you'll be helping them with their bags. So it's really okay that you get one that's big enough to fit all those things in, but try and encourage them not to wear them on their back. It'll be too heavy for them, and it's important that as they're growing that we look after their back and their muscles and we don't overburden them. When they're a little bit bigger and they're in year 1 and year 2, then that's okay, they can wear their backpack then. Now, looking at book lists. Book lists will have things like pencils, pens, rubbers, but it also has the books that they need for their work. So there'll be books that are assigned by the teacher for things like English and maths and geography and health and all sorts of different subjects, and they really need a book for each of those subjects. So by all means go by that book list, but you will probably need to buy more books as the year progresses, depending on how much they're using their books. And it's also important that you cover them. Now check with your school and check with your teacher in your introduction whether they share the books around, but normally your books will be for your child, the ones that you've purchased. So when you bring them home, if you cover them in a really nice contact paper so that the kids can easily see which is their books compared to all the other books, it makes it so much easier when they're trying to find the right book for the right subject. Often what happens in classrooms when they're for little people, the teacher keeps all the English books in one spot and all the maths books in another spot. They keep their geography books in another spot, and sometimes they use history on one side of the book and then they turn the book over and they use geography on the other side. So, because they won't need a whole book for history or a whole book for geography. So in those sorts of cases, because they've got a whole class all together, then the child can see their own contact and then they can quickly and easily go and get their books. And I find also that children tend to look after their books a lot more if they're covered in contact and they're labelled properly. Now it's so easy to cover in contact, and if you go to Officeworks or Kmart or any of those Big W, any of those places, around about the beginning of school they always have heaps of different contact with all different characters on it, and you can choose whatever you want. But they also have a thing called book covers, And they're just plastic book covers that you can slip the book straight into and it's all done. So you don't have to try and cover it and get it straight and all that sort of stuff. This video was produced by Imagination Pty Ltd for Life Unravelled. All advice and information given during this course is designed for general use only. If you have any concerns for your child, please seek professional advice as soon as possible. For terms and conditions, please see website www.lifeunravelled.com.au.